The legal limit for drinking and driving in South Africa may soon be 0. No more wine out at dinner, no more beers at the bar, zero tolerance. You see, that's the shift now on the table after the festive season report landed this past week. And look, this would mark one of the biggest changes to everyday driving rules in our country's history. Transport Minister Barbara Creecy has confirmed her plans to amend the National Road Traffic Act to ban alcohol consumption before driving, meaning that if you've had a drink, you can't drive, full stop. So right now, the law allows everyday drivers a blood alcohol level of up to 0.05. Now, in theory, that sounds clear, but in practice, it's anything but. You see, whether you're over depends on many factors: what you drank, when you last drank, how much you weigh. I mean, even your gender plays a role. Two people can drink the same amount and test very differently. And so Creecy's argument here is that this gray zone sends exactly the wrong signal, that there's no safe amount of drinking before driving. And so under this zero tolerance rule, that ambiguity disappears, where from here on out, any detectable alcohol would be illegal. Now, the timing matters. While festive season road deaths fell slightly to its lowest crash rate in 5 years, arrests for drunk driving surged by 144% compared to last year. Now, some have cheekily pointed out that this suggests that South Africans are simply getting better at drinking and driving safely. Understandably though, government doesn't see it that way. But here's where things get messy. You see, this exact proposal isn't new. Our previous transport minister introduced it in 2020 as part of the National Road Traffic Amendment Bill. It went through consultations, it hit parliament, sparked debate, and then it just stalled. It never became law. And so the question now is whether this version actually passes, or whether it just becomes another bill that sounds decisive, but just dies in the committees. As for you though, what do you think? Do you think zero tolerance is overdue, or does it go too far? So while new rules are being debated on the roads, old questions are still unresolved in the history books. More than 30 years after apartheid ended, South Africans are still arguing over what justice should look like for the crimes committed during that era, and whether it's too late to reopen them. After 1994, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was created to deal with the political killings, tortures, and disappearances during apartheid. Now, put simply, its central mechanism was amnesty, meaning that perpetrators who fully confessed to politically motivated crimes during that era could avoid prosecution. But anyone who didn't confess would now face the courts. And in the hundreds of serious cases, that reportedly didn't happen. Instead, victims received reparations like once-off 30 grand payments, medical support, education funding, and symbolic measures like reburials. Supporters say that this was a deliberate and practical choice to prioritize stability in a fragile new democracy. Critics, though, argue reparations quietly replaced accountability, leaving serious crimes unresolved. So that's why government launched the TRC case inquiry last year to investigate whether political interference or behind-the-scenes decisions blocked these prosecutions. Former presidents Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki held senior leadership roles during that period, which is why this inquiry wants their evidence. But both men are now challenging that inquiry, arguing that its chair, retired Judge Sisi Kampepe, cannot be impartial because of her past roles. And so until that challenge is resolved, this investigation is back on us. So while those questions get answered in courtrooms, consequences are landing in our very economy. When illegal markets get big enough, legitimate businesses stop being able to compete. And that's exactly what is happening in South Africa's tobacco industry. This week, British American Tobacco, better known as BAT, confirmed that it will shut down its only cigarette manufacturing plant in South Africa by the end of 2026, ending more than 50 years of domestic production. And look, this isn't about people smoking less. BAT says that illegal cigarettes now make up somewhere between 60 and 75% of the market, leaving legal producers fighting a losing battle. BAT says that its factory is operating at just 35% of its capacity, making local manufacturing just unviable. Illegal cigarettes sell for a fraction of the legal price, avoid excise duties, and undercut legal brands at every turn. Around 230 direct jobs are now on the line, with knock-on effects for farmers, suppliers, and the local economy. Now, interestingly enough, the company traces much of that damage back to the 2020 COVID-era cigarettes sales ban, when these illicit networks expanded rapidly and never fully retreated. Enforcement has struggled to catch up since, while excise hikes have also widened the price gap. Now, BAT will remain in South Africa by importing cigarettes, but the warning is clear: when these criminal markets dominate, the formal economy eventually retreats with them. And before we cruise on to our bagel bite of the day, here's a couple of the headlines worth knowing. For starters, the DA is heading into its April elective conference amid a messy public fallout after former Minister Dion George resigned, accusing party leader John Steenhuisen of interference and capture, allegations the DA has rejected outright. South African Airways and SEME have struck a domestic-only code-share deal, allowing passengers to book integrated flights across both airline networks, expanding access to regional destinations. Ticket sales for this partnership open up later this month. And as Nasa's water crisis deepens, residents have accused politicians and connected individuals of diverting municipal water tankers as government steps in with emergency funding to avert day zero. And on to our bagel bite of the day. But first, just a side note, my friends, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. And furthermore, if you do prefer your news on the go, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Links to both of those are either in our description below or our bio. And now, with that out the way, let's see what you got. The question is, which sport awards the Ballon d'Or trophy? Is it A, tennis, B, soccer, or C, basketball? Bonus points if you know who has won it the most. Your credit score could be one of the most powerful numbers in your life, and most South Africans only think about it when the bank says no. And so at its core, it's a risk rating. Simply put, lenders use it to decide whether you're likely to pay them back. Now, it's built on a few key factors, but it essentially comes down to your borrowing behavior. Do you pay on time? How close are you to your credit limits? How long have you had credit? Late or missed payments hurt your score even if the amount is small, and being maxed out sends a clear risk signal. Now, here's the counterintuitive part. Having no credit history doesn't help you. If you've never borrowed, there's nothing to measure, which makes you an unknown quantity. And so that's why small, manageable debt paid back consistently can actually help build up your score over time. And so that's the tension here. A credit score isn't a judgment of your character or how sensible you are with your money. It's a measure of how predictably you behave inside the credit system. And so you can earn well and score poorly, or you can earn very little and score high, purely based on your behavior. And so why it matters becomes obvious when things get expensive. Your score affects everything from whether or not you qualify for a bond, a car, or heck, even a phone contract, and how much interest you pay on that. And as for that bagel bite, the answer is soccer. And the Ballon d'Or record belongs to Lionel Messi, who's won it 8 times. Second on the list is Cristiano Ronaldo with 5. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is again just your reminder, if you do prefer your news on the go, be sure to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you have a cracker Monday. Be kind to one another. And we'll catch you all tomorrow for the next round of the good stuff. God bless.